Hello, and welcome to this week's Movie Math, where 8 is the new 4. Yes, remember at the beginning of the pandemic, the average movie opened at around 4 million, and there was nothing anyone seemed to be able to do about it? Well, now, the new pandemic average looks to be around 8 million. Nobody, Wrath of Man, and now Spiral all opened in that ballpark, with obviously a few exceptions. I'm going to start keeping track of the pandemic openings in a chart so we can really get an eye on how things are developing. It's okay. This puts Cruella and A Quiet Place 2 under pressure because they really need to deliver Memorial Day weekend, especially A Quiet Place 2, which is theaters only. That will be, I know, so in my trailer reaction, some of you pointed out that Tenet, which seems like so long ago, was the first official major film to open in theaters exclusively. But that went so poorly, no other big movie has done that until now, with A Quiet Place 2, and then Fast 9 after that. So these are the movies to keep an eye on. This is like traditional, really big fare, which you'll have to go to a movie theater if you want to see it. It's a 45-day window for A Quiet Place 2. Usually it would be 17 days for the Universal films, but I'm not quite sure what they're going to do with Fast 9. 17 days seems ridiculous. That seems too small a window, and I do believe that they can extend it for major pictures as part of that deal that Universal struck with all the theaters. So we'll see what happens with those movies. I can tell you that with critics, studios are still for the most part offering screeners, but they are very gently and responsibly trying to start pushing us toward in-theater screenings. They really want people to start to go to the theater. The other interesting angle this weekend is that Netflix is finally reporting its box office numbers. This isn't Army of the Dead isn't the first Netflix movie to play in theaters. In fact, as we're going to discuss, many of their awards contenders have played in theaters for like a month, but it was only in a handful of theaters. But now, because Army of the Dead is in about 430 theaters, Netflix reported numbers as they see if they can take advantage of the shrinking theatrical window to finally get their movies into more theaters. Oh, this is going to be an interesting conversation. Buckle up! This is great. So yes, that's right. With theaters desperate, this is so interesting. Wait till you see where this conversation takes us. So, with theaters desperate for new content with big-name talent right now, Cinemark broke from AMC and Regal by opening Army of the Dead in several hundred theaters 1 week before the Zack Snyder film hits Netflix itself. Now, Cinemark had already floated out Christmas Chronicles 2 over the holidays. Remember that? And they said that late last week, they are indeed forging a long-term relationship with Netflix going forward for select films. And I think we can all guess what those select films will be. We're talking Red Notice, Extraction 2, The Gray Man, with Chris Evans, Ryan Gosling, and Regé-Jean Page, and Ana de Armas in that film. That stuff very much play in theaters. And, many of you saw Army of the Dead in theaters this weekend, and you said you had an absolutely fabulous time. I got a screener. Now, side note, Cinemark has some real weight to throw around. Cinemark is for those of us like on the East Coast, Cinemark isn't a big chain, but they have a very big footprint in the marketplace because they're the ones, if you might recall, who refused to play Raya in The Last Dragon because they were upset with Disney's the way Disney was handling their films with these day-and-date Disney Plus releases. And that actually affected Raya's opening weekend box office and its box office in its early days. Cinemark makes a difference. And so much so that Disney actually struck a deal with them a couple of weeks ago. So Cinemark started playing Raya, and that actually gave Raya a second wind at the box office. So Cinemark can move the needle. Disney, by the way, also announced late last week that they're going to have a 45-day window starting with Free Guy and Shang-Chi, like other studios are doing. And I'm sure that helps smooth things over with theaters like Cinemark as well. Now back to Cinemark and Netflix. There's clearly still some tinkering they need to do with this release model because while understandably, with only 430 theaters, Army opened at number 9, the issue is the per-theater average. The trades are reporting that Army had a per-theater average of around 1.8 thousand per theater, with only 35 theaters out of the 430 able to break 3K per theater. That's like what they can play, per single screen. Now, for comparison, to give you some perspective, Spiral had about 800 theaters able to break 3,000. So the issue is obviously that in just 1 week, you can watch Army on Netflix at no extra cost. Now, The Irishman, Marriage Story, and other Netflix awards contenders, as we just talked about, were in theaters a month before they hit Netflix. And maybe for these select films, Netflix needs to do the same. But Netflix has been reluctant to do that because they don't want to upset their subscribers who feel they should get, they've been very loyal to Netflix. Netflix is not only an industry leader, but an industry definer. And so they are very careful about making sure their subscribers are happy. Now, Netflix needs to decide, this is where it gets great, if they want to stay the industry leader and definer in streaming, and I think they could, or but there is a risk to upsetting subscribers. I'm curious how you would feel about this change. It wouldn't be for all their content, but they have so much content, really. You can't, but you'd have to wait the 30 days. But maybe they want to evolve into a full-on studio. Oh, wow! Especially because Amazon and Disney Plus are becoming real streaming competitors. So if Amazon and Disney Plus are going to come into Netflix's streaming house, why doesn't Netflix go into at least Disney's movie theater house? Netflix, when you think about it, could become the 5th major studio. There's majors and mini majors. That's the way Hollywood used to define studios. And there used to be 5 until Fox was swallowed up by Disney. So Netflix could take the Fox spot and become the 5th major studio. That would be incredible. I'm rooting for that development, quite frankly. Speaking of streaming services, there was some chatter in Variety this week about sub numbers. Take these with a little bit of a grain of salt. For instance, I know that Paramount has reported that they actually have about 36 million subscribers. So it's a little bit, again, this is like an idea. Again, that's how you have to handle streaming. You kind of have an idea of how things are doing. So HBO Max, as you can see, is on par with Hulu, and those are both domestic services right now. So there really appears to be a ceiling there, quite frankly. Now, speaking of HBO Max, it was announced today that AT&T is trying to merge HBO Max with Discovery Plus, which itself has 15 million subscribers as of their last quarterly report. But the real problem, the trades mention this deep in the articles, but I feel this is actually the issue, is that AT&T has so much debt from acquiring Time Warner in the first place, and they have so many other expenses as a company, as a telecommunications company, that they simply don't have the money needed to generate the sheer amount of high-profile original content that you need to compete with Netflix, Disney Plus, and Amazon. That's fascinating. Look how much money those other places are pouring into new content, and AT&T simply cannot match them dollar for dollar. New HBO Max originals are coming, as well as a very slow global rollout. So we'll keep an eye on things. It might be slow and steady for HBO Max. It might be slow and steady. Now, it would be great, I also think, if HBO Max could get in on the Nielsen weekly rankings so we could have some idea of how their shows and movies are performing. Same for Apple TV. I'm sick and tired of great content on Apple TV going totally unnoticed because it never gets ranked anywhere. It is not ranked on iTunes. It's not ranked on Nielsen. Even most of all the little companies that have popped up who claim to have, to know how things are doing on streaming, they rarely report on Apple TV. I'm talking about Defending Jacob. I'm talking about the Banker, which was very good. I'm talking about Ted Lasso. Ted Lasso seems to be breaking through because it's just that good. And now I'm watching The Mosquito Coast. Someone was like, you got to watch Greyhound also. That was great. But someone told me I had some friends who were like, you got to watch Mosquito Coast. It's so good. And I was like, but I was really bored last night, so I watched it. And I was like, oh my God, I've been sleeping on this show. It's so good. Some of you did not agree with me, so take into account that it might not be for everyone. But it even changed my opinion on Rupert Wyatt, who I thought was a dud of a director. But now I'm like, if I was a producer or a streaming service or a studio and I saw The Mosquito Coast, I would give the creative people involved with that carte blanche to do anything else for me. I think they really delivered. But it is on Apple, so nobody watches. This is so sad. All right, so anyway. Speaking of Apple in my notes, I had that, look at them. That's so many subscribers for a service that nobody talks about. It just means that so many people got a free subscription with buying an Apple product and probably don't use it. Are you one of those people? I'm telling you, set it up. It's worth your time. Go watch Ted Lasso. Go watch Defending Jacob. Go watch Mosquito Coast. Go watch Greyhound. You will have a very good time. It's free, and you're still not watching it. That's a real failure on Apple TV's part. Now, they should just make it pop up on your phone. All right, so on that note, those who wish me dead from HBO Max only managed to get a B from audiences. Ouch. I thought it was a little better than a B. I would think that movie, I don't like to grade stuff, as you know, but I think a B plus makes more sense for that movie. But anyway, it had a very poor debut in theaters. It couldn't even hit the old average of 4. It's kind of similar to The Little Things, I would think, product-wise, and that had a bigger opening at theaters. So Angelina Jolie, who we all know is working on staging a comeback, she clearly has a long way to go winning back moviegoers. It's also worth noting, though, that Jolie has never been a guarantee for a big opening weekend. She has always been more of a tabloid star than a box office star, although, of course, she has had some undeniable box office hits. But she's never a guarantee. She has to be in the right project. Is Eternals the right project? Interesting. I think she might be becoming more like Johnny Depp than she wanted. She wanted to be like him with his success, with Disney, which is why she signed on for Maleficent. But she might become a little too much like Johnny Depp, even down to the personal drama with her and Brad Pitt. All right, so as for Chris Rock, his take on the Saw franchise got a B- from audiences. Whew, Jolie's like, at least I didn't get a B-. Although Chris Rock did open at number 1, so he's got that going for him. And that, of course, is the most important to Hollywood. The grade matters, but the box office is the most important. B-, usually horror films, I guess, around a C, so you would think B- would be good. But actually, Saw films mostly get a B, so pretty good on that franchise that is so critically acclaimed to some degree. Or at least audiences feel so strongly about it. Now, looking at the overall box office top 10, Raya, slow and steady, talking about slow and steady, has just passed up Tom and Jerry, and you might recall those opened just a week apart. Tom and Jerry hitting theaters and HBO Max first. Godzilla vs. Kong is still inching towards the century mark. Oh my God, is it ever going to get there? I think it might, but I don't know. It's real slow. While Mortal Kombat is just about to pass 40 million. Yikes. I do think we're going to get another Mortal Kombat movie, but I think Warner Brothers understands internally that they messed that up and they got to fix it. They have something of real value, but they need to work on it a little harder. And Wrath of Man fell 55% in its second weekend, which is almost exactly how much Nobody fell in its second weekend, interestingly enough, which means it's less about the movies and more about the audience that's available and the habits, the patterns that are emerging. Which, by the way, the audience continues to skew heavily older right now. The 18 to 25 demo remains elusive. And they're, of course, Hollywood's favorite demo, which is why so many movies are stopping by the MTV Movie and TV Awards tonight to promote. They're like, please come out and see our movies. Now, as for the latest charts, Nielsen reports came in for the week of April 12th through the 18th. They're so far behind. Why does it take so long in today's day and age for them to get these rankings? They're like over a month behind. That's ridiculous. Falcon and Winter Soldier and them are still number 1 and 2 for original shows. That's impressive, particularly for them. While Jamie Foxx's Dad Stop Embarrassing Me had a strong debut that week. As for movies, Thunder Force is still number 1, and a number of you admitted to liking it last week. So hey, good for Melissa McCarthy and Ben Falcone. And Anthony Mackie has another streaming hit. This movie actually played briefly in theaters. It was on PVOD and finally hit Netflix that week, the week of April 12th. And it did pretty well there, very well. On Netflix this week, Amy Adams is a draw. Good for her, with Woman in the Window dominating in its debut. Wow, that's amazing. A lot of people were very interested in that movie. Did you watch Woman in the Window, and what did you think of it? Right, so far it has very low critic and audience scores. The Upshaws also debuted at number 2, while Jupiter's Legacy is still doing very well, as is The Mitchells versus the Machines, while newcomers Love, Death, and Robots Season 2, Halston, I Am All Girls from South Africa, and Castlevania's final season filled up the rest of the top 10. By the way, that's 6 new releases in a single weekend on Netflix, highlighting HBO Max's problem with lack of new originals. That's incredible. Boy, Netflix is a boss. That's amazing. And on iTunes, nothing too exciting going on over here with, again, deals like New to Rent driving most traffic. Love and Monsters, by the way, is a limited time 99-cent rental. That's a really solid movie. If you haven't seen that, you should scoop that up for $1. It's I'll buy that for $1, right? Oh, that's from RoboCop. Hilarious. All right, so anyway, as for this coming week, there's no big movie hitting theaters right before Memorial Day weekend, so that gives Army of the Dead the weekend pretty much all to itself as it drops on Netflix. I think a big test will be whether or not it trends when it hits. While Hulu debuts the whole season of Modok, some Marvel content hitting over there instead of Disney+. And Amazon also, I'm more curious if people are kind of superhero contented out. I have all the episodes for Modok. I haven't gotten a chance to watch it. The embargo, it was supposed to be either tomorrow or the latest I saw is it's Wednesday's the embargo. So I'm going to try and review it on Wednesday. But anyway, Amazon also releases all episodes for Panic, which is like Small Town Hunger Games, and Solos, an anthology, a futuristic anthology featuring Anthony Mackie, which means it's probably going to be a big hit as well. He's not in the whole thing, but he does play. It's like a Parent Trap situation. He plays two roles. So that should be a lot of fun. I'm very happy for Anthony Mackie. You know, he's a great example of a working actor who's been around for a while, did the work, was loyal, had faith in, franchises and companies to build his career, and it's really working out for him. And I think he's a great guy, so I'm very happy about it. So, what have you been watching? What do you plan to watch? What actors are you rooting for? Anthony Mackie, Angelina Jolie. This is an interesting space right now. And also, what are your thoughts on the box office this weekend and the developing situation with streaming services? And what are your thoughts on Netflix? Should they just stick to streaming or should they make a run at becoming the fifth studio? Fifth studio, baby! Let's do it! All right, share those thoughts down below. Subscribe today. And of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.